So guys, today we are starting with few topics. Okay, like you might have seen somewhere written UTM device, FortiGate UTM device. Have you guys noticed that? What is UTM device? FortiGate UTM. You might have seen somewhere written as a FortiGate UTM device, right? Have you guys noticed? Okay, Salish. So do you know what's that UTM? The meaning of UTM? That's true. It's like unified threat management. Okay. See, all the devices, next generation devices, like if I talk about Palo Alto, if I talk about Checkpoint, FortiGate, or if I talk about Cisco FTD, all the devices are capable for filtering intrusions, right? They can do intrusion prevention. They can do a threat management. But especially FortiGate, they call themselves as a UTM device. They think like they are the vendors who does a threat management inside the firewall itself. That's true, like your firewall does, your FortiGate firewall does, but it's not like the vendors who does not say themselves as a UTM can't do a threat filtering. It's not like that. So it's just a terminology that indicates that our product does the filtering. Our product does a filtering of the threats. So I hope you guys understood the meaning of UTM, right? It's all about the threat management. Your devices are capable for filtering the threats coming to your network. You can do those threat filterings through the firewall itself. Okay. Today's agenda is we'll see what are the how we'll identify the major features of a FortiGate firewall. We'll differentiate the FortiGuard packages. Is anyone aware of what is FortiGuard package? Shailesh, are you aware of what's FortiGuard package? Anyone else? Okay, no worries. Anyone else aware of what is FortiGuard package? Okay. After that, we'll discuss about the operation mode, we'll discuss about the architecture, and we'll discuss about the model number and the specification details. So these are the total details that we are going to discuss today. Today's objectives. Okay. So guys, tell me, what is firewall? Before I get into the major features of a FortiGate firewall, first of all, tell me, what is firewall? Let me see how many of you guys can answer this question, like basic questions. Whenever you guys will go as a fresher in a market for a network security jobs and all, they will definitely ask you such type of questions. They'll ask you, tell me what is firewall? Tell me guys, what's firewall? It's a filtering mechanism when the traffic enters and leaves the device or network. Packet filtering. Okay. Device to control a traffic and provide a segmentation of traffic. Okay. Incoming, outgoing packets.
Basically, it creates a barrier, right?
It's a barrier between.
Yeah, network. One second, sir.
Okay. See, almost you guys have given, the correct answer. Like it's basically a barrier between your uh, trusted and untrusted network. Okay, correct.
Yeah,
It's
correct. I was
basically
searching for that word actually.
yeah,
You have told this us before.
yeah. It's basically a barrier between a trusted and untrusted network. What type of barriers now? Now, most of you guys told like it's a packet filtering, right? So packet filtering based on what? Based on what parameters it will do a packet filtering? Tell me. Based on what it will do a packet filtering? Those who told like layer 3, layer 4, and layer 7 informations, or layer 3, layer 4 informations, right? Subnets and all comes under layer 3 information, right? See, based on rules, when you say that's fine, but what does your rule have? what is inside a rule. Okay, see, it can be inbound, outbound, it can be outbound, inbound, anything, right? It's not only about inbound and outbound. It can be outbound, inbound also, right? See, you can see your firewalls in two different ways. First of all, a normal firewall, just a firewall, and another as a next generation firewall. Can anyone tell what's the difference between firewall and next generation firewall? What's the difference between firewall and a next generation firewall? Such type of simple questions you guys will get in interviews. Okay, fine. Somehow you guys know what is next generation firewall, what does it mean? Okay, but still I don't have a clear answer from you guys. Just telling from layer 4 to layer 7 or layer 3 to layer 7 does not give me a full answer. Okay.
I mean, layer 3 and layer 4 filtering we can do in firewall, but next generation firewall, layer 2 to layer 7, application filtering, sub application, service based application filtering, those and all we can do. AMP, AVC, that and all will be there, right?
Okay, these are correct. Okay, let's see. Okay, before I get into firewall and a next generation firewall, uh, tell me guys, like, how many types of firewalls do you know? Based on the features, how many types of firewalls do you know? What are they? See, we say stateless firewall, stateful firewall, okay, and application gateway firewall. But see, these are the feature wise, the firewalls, feature wise. But if someone is asking you how many types of firewalls are there, you can say there are two types of firewalls. First thing, hardware and software. These are the two firewalls only present. Either the firewalls can be hardware based or it can be software based, right? After that, if someone is asking you feature wise, tell me how many types of firewalls are there, you can tell them stateless firewall, stateful firewall, and application gateway firewall. Now, what are the meanings of these firewalls? Okay. Now, stateless firewall means what? Stateless firewall does not have, what do you mean by stateless firewall, guys? Does not have any state of the connections passing through or the traffic passing through your device. Now, answer me one question.
It doesn't maintain the connection table.
Okay. Now, let's say you have a router. Through a router, whenever any traffic is passing, let's say any traffic is passing through your router, have you ever seen that router maintains the connection details? Whatever the traffic is passing through the router, have you seen the connection details, like what's a source IP, what's a destination IP, what's a protocol, what's a port number, such things on the router? That's a routing table. I'm not asking about a routing table. So if you have to do any filtering on the router, then how would you do that? Now, let's say if I talk about the Cisco router, let's say if I talk about Cisco router, how would you filter the traffic here? Definitely we'll go for L3 ACLs, we'll apply ACLs over here. In that, we might define what's a protocol, what's a source, what's a destination, Layer 3, layer 4 informations will mention in ACL and will apply to a particular interface in a particular direction to filter the traffic, right? So we basically do layer 3, layer 4 filterings based on the ACLs, right? But we don't have any, we don't have any connection table, we don't have any state table, we don't get much informations about your connections passing through the firewall. It will be stateless. The best example to say stateless is on a Cisco routers. When you apply a ACL, you can just filter the packet based on the layer 3 and layer 4 informations, right? Based on the ACLs, you can filter. You can't see any type of connections being created. Okay, you can't see any connections being maintained over here. Okay, and not maintaining the connections has their own disadvantages. Okay, so as a border or as a edge device, Cisco, I mean, like routers are not the good devices. Okay, so basically in a stateless device, what you'll have, let's say for example, I want to send some data. On top of data will be encapsulated, and I'll have on top of that IPv4 header. Okay, now let's say I have a data, and on top of that I have a IPv4 header, right? Now tell me guys, whenever I'll try to see I'll have a IPv4 address, or I can say I'll have a layer 3 or layer 4 information. Let's say I want to route a data. Now let's say I have a real data. This real data will be encapsulated and new header will be added. On top of this, I'll see layer 3 and layer 4 information, right? IP and the port number will be given. Source and destination will be included, right? Now might be this data I'm trying to send it through some protocol, right? I might be sending I might be sending this data through some protocol. Now let's say for example, I'm sending this data through ICMP protocol. Now let's say I'm sending ICMP request. So ICMP request is basically my data. So on top of that, I can see what's a header, ICMP header. On ICMP, on top of ICMP header, what do I see? I see layer 3 and layer 4 information, right? So basically, whenever you guys talk about the stateless device, your stateless device can do a filtering based on these layers only. Okay, it will do a filtering based on layer 3, layer 4 informations. Okay, if your data is unencrypted, let's say ICMP is not encrypted. So let's say if I want to filter ICMP is a layer 3 protocol. Like, let's say if I talk about what's a protocol number for ICMP, guys, protocol number 1. So I can filter at layer 3 as well for the ICMP. If I block the protocol number 1, I can filter it. Now let's say for example, if I say HTTPS or let's say I say HTTP:// inside this I'm sending some data like www.facebook.com. Okay, I'm sending some data. So devices like these stateless devices will not have a visibility under the payload part, under the HTTP payload or HTTPS payload. Whatever the informations are passing, generally your stateless device will not have visibility on it. What it will have visibility, it will see what's my IPv4, or let's say what's my layer 3 and what's my layer 4 information. Based on these parameters, it will try to filter the traffics. Okay, now let's say if you are creating an ACL also, between the ACLs, now let's say for example, based on the source address, destination address, or the source port, destination port, what type of traffics I want to filter, that I can do. It will not have the visibility to the inner part or the payload part of your data. Okay. Now let's say, for example, somehow you guys are some devices. Let's say some devices are there like ASA firewall are there. ASA firewall is basically a layer 3 device. Means it's a stateful device, not a stateless device. Okay. See, previous routers and all, on which we could define the ACLs and all, based on the ACL, based on the layer 3, layer 4 informations. So basically only at the upper header, you'll have a visibility. You can filter the informations. Does not maintain any connection tables, does not verify the data that's basically coming from which source to which destination. Such type of issues you'll have in a stateless firewall. Now coming to a stateful firewall, what it has a visibility to payload part also. It can filter the packet from layer 3, layer 4. It can filter the packets till layer 7. But all the stateful firewalls does not have a visibility to application layers. Not all the firewalls, not all the stateful firewalls are having a visibility to application layer, or not all the stateful firewalls can do a deep packet inspection. Okay. Like, for example, if I say ASA firewall, ASA firewall is not a next generation firewall, but it's a stateful firewall. Those who have done ASA firewall, they can answer this question, they can know it. Whenever any traffic is passing through the firewall, you guys can see the connection table, right? And the returning packet verifies the connection table to allow the reply packet. Is that true? Okay. So that is basically stateful inspection. It does a stateful inspection means what? Whenever you send the packet through a device, it creates a connection table or a state table, and returning packet, when it comes, it verifies with the same port number, same IP address. The returning packet, actually same guy is returning back with the same port number or not. It will be verified, then only the packet will get accepted. It's not like anyone from the outside can send a request directly, not like that. So what I'm trying to tell is ASA firewall is a stateful firewall. But tell me guys, does your ASA firewall have features like application filtering features, sub application filtering features? Do you have such features? No, you don't have. So what does it prove? Not all the stateful firewalls are the application layer firewalls or next generation firewall. Okay. When I say application gateway firewall, they all are next generation firewalls. Okay. So not all the stateful firewalls can be a next generation firewall, limitations. Okay. But all the application gateway firewalls can be a next generation firewall. So this is how you guys can tell the differences. Okay. See, whenever you'll Google types of firewalls, you'll see different types of firewalls. They'll have their own theory, they'll have their own meanings, but overall you guys need to understand in this way. Okay. Stateful firewall or the application layer firewalls, all firewalls can do a deep layer or deep packet inspection. They'll have a visibility to all the packets. They can see, they can do a content filtering. So basically now we are discussing between the normal firewall, or you can say stateful firewall, and a next generation firewall. Let's find the difference. So guys, whenever I talk about the firewall, in general, what are the firewall features? What are the things that you can see under the firewall? Let's say your firewall does a routing. It can do a routing, right? Transparent firewall. Routing means what? NAT mode or L3 mode. Your firewall can work as a layer 3 device, I mean like as a gateway, or you can deploy your firewall as a transparent, okay, transparent firewall. Transparent firewall means what? Layer 2 firewall. Okay, what else you guys can do with the firewalls? If I just talk about a normal firewalling feature, you guys can do translation, you guys can do VPN, right? You guys can do layer 2 to layer 4 filterings. In general, these are the more guys what you can filter. Let's say you guys can you guys might be able to do multi-context. You guys can multi-contexting like VDUMs, multiple firewalls, multi-firewall you can say, multi virtual firewall. You guys can create a HA. In a HA also you guys can create like active, standby, or you can create active. So these are in general features of your firewalls. But when I say next generation firewall, what do you mean by next generation firewall? Next generation firewall, see the term firewall is included. It means I will have all these features plus what you'll have. Plus you'll have like application filter. You'll have sub application filtering. What else, guys? Tell me. You'll have a content filter. In a content filter, multiple things will come, like antivirus, right? You'll have a separate filterings. Yes, you'll have a DLP features, data loss prevention. You'll basically have the IPS feature, right? You'll have the content filtering means what? You'll basically have the IPS filtering. You can use for IPS or you can use it for IDS. IDS for monitoring, IPS for filtering. So multiple thing comes under this. Okay. After that, what you guys can have? You can have a URL filtering. Okay. You can have yes. You can have advanced malware protection. Okay. So different types of advantages you guys will have, like sandboxing, you can say. Okay. You can say kind of a sandboxing where it does the advanced malware protection. Right. So such type of features, whenever you guys combine together, then finally what it becomes? Next generation firewall. Okay. So your next generation firewall has all these features included. All these features are included together. Generally, if I tell you ASA, I would say as a general firewall, next generation firewall, I would tell like FortiGate firewall, or I would say like FTD firewall, or I would say checkpoint firewall, or I would say Palo Alto firewall. These all are the next generation firewalls. So all these firewalls has all these features inbuilt. I don't need to take any other devices. Like here, if I want to do a next generation firewalling, means what I have to do. If someone has only ASA, then they have to purchase one more device. They might need to purchase IPS device, or they might to if they want to do web filtering, they need to deploy WSA. If they want to do intrusion prevention, then IPS device or NG IPS device, right? So they have to implement other devices, multiple devices in a network. So for firewall, you'll pay 5 lakhs. Again, for WSA, you will pay 5 lakhs. For NG IPS, you'll pay 5 lakhs, 15 lakhs. Why don't you purchase the NG IPS in 7 lakhs? Just for example, I'm telling you, having all the features in a single device. So basically, are you guys getting my point? Like, what is next generation firewall? Okay. In firewalls, like let's say in simple firewalls, what you guys might do, let's say if you guys tell me like, can't I do a URL filtering in ASA firewall? I'll say you can do. But just to filter one URL, you guys have to write a regex value. Regex value means what? It's a regular expression. Just to filter one URL filter, just to do one URL filtering, okay, you might need to write 10 lines, okay, of a commands to do a filtering. But when it comes in a next generation firewall, simply while creating a policy, just select one application or select one, the URL, whatever you want to filter, and apply it. That's it. In ASA firewall, if I want to filter, let's say for example, if I want to filter www.facebook.com, it could be possible to filter facebook.com. I could be able to filter the Facebook URL. Okay. But if you are told to filter, if you guys are told to filter, let's say on the Facebook, you guys have sub applications, right? Like you'll have games, you'll have chat, you'll have video chat, you'll have audio chat, you'll have download, you'll have upload. See, multiple other sub applications are present, right? Like you have comment. See, multiple sub applications are there. Now, if you have 100 employees in a network, in your organization, you have 100 employees, right? Out of 100 employees, let's say 90 employees are doing a video chatting or downloading some file through Facebook or some other applications. Don't you think your internet bandwidth will get utilized by those type of applications? Isn't it? Your internet bandwidth will go very slow, correct? Now, what I want is, I want employees to access this Facebook, but I don't want them to access these sub applications. Okay, I don't want them to do comment, like, post picture, anything. I don't want them to do such things. But just for enjoyment, I want them to get an access to a Facebook page. They can simply get a Facebook page. See, this requirement, what I have, given access to a Facebook but block such sub applications, it's not possible with your general firewall. A normal stateful firewall can't do this thing, because they don't have a feature called as application filtering or sub application filtering, that they can block the sub applications. Max, what you could do is you could block the URL. Even you don't have the application based filtering, you have a URL based filtering. So anything that you want to block, max, you can go with URL filtering, or you'll try to filter the IP address, or you'll try to block the the source port, destination port, or whatever it is, Facebook IP address and the services you would try to block. So if I just can block the facebook.com, then what will happen? If I block a Facebook, means Facebook also got blocked, and along with that all these sub applications also got blocked. Everything got blocked. So you won't get such type of advantage that you can, you know, enable the sub applications or disable the sub applications and only allow the particular website. Such type of filtering is not possible. Okay, such type of filterings are called deep packet inspection. This is called deep packet inspection. So basically your non next generation firewalls, just a firewall or stateful firewall or normal stateful firewalls, can't do a deeper packet inspection like filtering an application. If I just want to filter the application, let's say I want to block uh, any applications. Let's say, for example, I want to block Skype application. I want to block Torrent application. You guys can easily do it with the next generation firewall. If I want to filter sub applications and I want to allow the base application, I can do easily with next generation firewall. But coming to a normal firewall, not possible. You guys have heard about the Torrent application, right? Torrent application. It's a highly vulnerable type of application, right? I hope you guys are aware of it. It's a highly vulnerable type of application. Okay. Now, do you know what type of IP address or port number will be used with the torrent? Can you guys tell me accurate IP, the IP address of the torrent on which it is accessible? Today it might have some other IP, day after tomorrow it might have some other IP, right? Random. It can use a TCP or UDP. Random, it can use a dynamic port numbers to establish the connection. You know, the behavior of torrent application is like, let's say, for example, if you Google out what's a torrent port number, a standard port number. If I just say here, torrent port number, you can see few port numbers are there in range, which can be used by the BitTorrents and all. But do you think those BitTorrents or the torrents are limited only with these port numbers? They are just like, you know, you are just pretending like, okay, I am blocking these port numbers and my torrent will get blocked. It's not like that. If you are working with port number 80, if you are working with a port number 53, if you are working with some other port numbers like 68, 67, 68, anything that are necessary to allow in your network, any protocols that you allow in a network to pass through the firewall, right? It can establish a connection based on those pre-allowed port numbers as well. Your torrents are so clever that it can establish the connection behind 80 also. No matter you have blocked the standard port numbers of torrent, does not matter. If you are running port number 80 behind the port number 80, it can establish the connection. That much they are, you know, vulnerable. So basically what I mean is, with our normal firewalls, if you say like, if I want to block the torrent, then maximum what you'll do, you'll block the port numbers. You'll block the port numbers, and what you'll think, my ports are blocked, so torrent won't get allowed in. Say these things in 2012, 2013 till 14, if they were telling, that was like, okay, we were blindly faithing on those firewall vendors and thinking like those ports are blocked. But slowly, what did we come to know? No, even blocking those port numbers, though the torrent is accessible, So your normal firewalls are not capable for filtering the applications like a torrent. And like torrent, we have many other applications. This is just one example. Like this, we have highly riskable other types of applications which can establish the connection based on random port numbers. So do you think such type of torrent applications can be controlled by ASA firewall? Now, today I block the port number and the IP address of the torrent. So for today, your torrent might be blocked. Let's say you have blocked the IP address with any, no matter whatever the port number is, you blocked it for that IP address. But tomorrow, what will happen? The IP address of torrent will get changed. Do you think that blocking will work for you? The IP address which you had blocked will work tomorrow again? No, it won't work. In that case, what do you need? I need a solution. I need a strong solution wherein if I block the application torrent, it means no matter it's using a random port number or it is using uh, a random IP address, I don't care about the IP addresses and all. What I care about is the application. So I should have a mechanism in my firewall that can understand the behavior of your application and block it. Even if I haven't, if I have blocked the port, the torrent application, and if it tries to establish the connection behind the port number 80, your firewall should be capable for understanding that behind port number 80, torrent is trying to establish the connection. I should filter it. Such type of firewall is called as a next generation firewall. Now, am I clear, guys? Why next generation firewall application filtering, sub application filterings are required? And what is the work of this application and sub application filtering? Okay, now let's come to docs over here. See, if I see a traditional network security, then what we do? Many single purpose systems to cope with variety of threats. Okay, now let's say, for example, for VPN, we used to use a separate device. For intrusion prevention, we used to use a separate device. Application control, separate device. Web filtering, WAN optimization, anti-spam, antivirus, firewall. So basically what we used to do, all these devices, separate devices. I mean, like all these features having a separate devices. In today's date, if you use so many devices, latency will increase, right? Let me just make you understand what will happen if you use so many devices in a network. What will happen with the packet? Remember, guys, when you were accessing 2G internet? You remember when you were accessing 2G internet? How many of you have access to 2G internet? Second generation of internet. That time when you used to open the, any page, sometimes, page was, your packet was dropped. Again, you used to try multiple times, very slow, but you had that patience label, right? To digest that slowness, you had that patience label. At least 2G was there. After that, when 3G came, it was more faster than 2G. Right. Now we have 4G connection. Now in today's date, if I tell you guys go and access 2G, will your patience level, support you? Like, will you be able to hold your patience while working with 2G connection? Never. Same thing will happen when, when you'll work with the traditional devices. These traditional devices will not have such type of capacities on fast data processing. Plus, if my data has to pass through one devices, and if one device does, let's say 100 milliseconds difference. So 10 devices means 1 second difference. Right now, while doing anything, if 1 second or 2 seconds also, if you get delayed opening any page, you say like your internet is very slow, right? Same thing will happen. So these all are the traditional networks, guys. These are the traditional way of deploying your network, wherein the data speed, network security is implementing with different types of devices, connecting different vendors, different subscriptions. You have different devices to maintain. To just maintain these many devices, at least you need 2-3 engineers, right? Say, what if I say, hey, no need to deploy these many devices. You have all these devices in a single device. That's your FortiGate device. That's basically a next generation firewall. So what does your FortiGate say? Hey, I'm a single device. I'm a comprehensive device wherein I have all these features in a single device. I don't need to purchase another devices. Many more things we have. This is just like an example we are telling. So this is FortiGate capabilities, FortiGate firewall details. If I talk about the FortiGate firewall architecture, your FortiGate firewall architectures are like the hardware of your FortiGate firewall is called FortiASIC optimized hardware. So you'll have a FortiGate, it's on hardware. Okay, like Cisco has its own hardware, like that FortiGate will also have their own hardware. All the devices, all the vendors will have their own device, on products, and their own products will have on hardware specifications. FortiASIC or optimized hardware. FortiASIC is a kind of a CPU which is basically designed by the FortiGate or the Fortinet team for their hardwares. It's a kind of a specific CPU that supports your like packet processing, application filtering, content filtering. Okay, so they call their CPU as a FortiASIC. Okay, no. FortiASIC optimized hardware means they'll have their own hardware, they'll have their own chips. They are not depending on any other vendor's hardware. I'm talking about their own hardwares. I told you the firewalls can be deployed, either it can be hardware or it can be software, right? Any vendor's firewall. So right now I'm talking about hardware. So FortiGate has their own firewall hardwares. They have the softwares as well that you can deploy on HP, Dell, or IBM servers. Okay, but they have their own specific hardwares also, and in that hardware they'll have the specific chips, and that chips name are FortiASIC chips. Like you have Xeon processor, you guys have AMD processors, right? Same way, when you guys purchase a Fortinet hardwares, in that Fortinet hardwares, you guys will have a FortiASIC CPUs. Now getting me? Okay. Like, see, these are the different types of CPUs, which we call it as a FortiASIC. So we'll have a NP7, we'll have a core processor 9, we'll have a system on a chip 4, SCC4 types of, the CPUs. These all are called as a FortiASIC chips. See, depending on the firewall, now let's say, depending on the model number of firewall, if you talk about the higher model of the FortiGate firewalls, per interface, they have the one CPU given for packet processing. Okay. That you guys can see in a FortiGate firewalls only. See, all the firewalls have their own market terminologies, the way of doing marketing. Okay. So basically, when I talk about the FortiGate firewall, they have a 40 ASIC chips inbuilt in their hardware. They don't depend on any other vendors. On top of 40 hardware, they have the 40 OS. 40 OS means what? What do you call the operating system of Microsoft? What are the operating systems of Microsoft? Like Windows 10?
Windows,
Hmm. Operating system of, like what operating system you have in mobiles? Android, iOS. Right. Same way. Like Cisco has its own operating system called as Google operating system is also there. iOS operating system in Cisco's device, right? Correct. What do you call the operating system of Checkpoint? Checkpoint Firewall's operating system? Gaya.
Gaya,
Correct. Same way in Palo Alto we call Pan OS, right? Same way in FortiGate firewall we have the operating system called as a 40 OS. So your 40 OS basically it is a kernel operating system is Linux only. It's a Linux based operating system itself. So they have customized the Linux based operating system and created their own operating system called as a 40 OS. Pan OS, Gaia, any operating system you see, they all are based on the Linux itself. But the way of executing commands will be different. Some similarities you will find. Okay. Now, on top of operating system, you will see the many modules, or you can say the feature wise, like firewalling feature, antivirus feature, web filtering feature, IPS filtering, all these features. Except the firewalling feature, whatever the other features you'll have, they all need subscription. Except the firewalling feature, anything that I want to use that needs a subscription. On top of this, what we have? Subscription. See, not GUI based all the firewalls. Like Cisco firewalls, something are like given for 90 days of evaluation. Checkpoint firewall, all the features they have allowed it for 15 days. After 15 days, it will get expired. So all the firewalls has their own rules. Binay, are you getting my point, what I'm saying? It's not about GUI based firewall or CLI based firewall. Okay. So what your FortiGate firewall says, hey, I can give you all these access, but you have to take the package called as a FortiGuard. You remember at the beginning of class, I asked you what is FortiGuard? FortiGuard is nothing but it's a package under which you get the subscription as an antivirus, FortiWeb, IPS, and many others. So it's basically a package. Now let's say if you guys are purchasing a hardware, guys, I'm not using a digital slate. I'm typing or drawing it, typing with mouse itself. So if my writing is not good, please ignore that. So if I purchase the hardware of any firewall of a FortiGate, I'll get 30 days of a trial period of FortiGuard subscription, 30 days of free trial. After 30 days, what will happen? It will ask me for license. These things will not work. If I'm just purchasing the firewall, but I'm not purchasing the FortiGuard subscription with the firewall. Let's say I purchased a firewall from Fortinet company and I didn't buy a subscription. So for a long time, I mean, like you'll have a base license and you'll have a paid license. So with the base license, you'll get firewall functionality is free, but the advanced features, next generation features that makes your firewall as a next generation firewall, those features will be disabled after 30 days. You'll get 30 days free trial. After that, you'll have to buy. Now in a FortiGuard subscription, if you want like to choose like antivirus, IPS, I don't want to do web filtering, you can choose that. So that's basically a package that you have to go through. That is FortiGuard subscription. Is that clear, guys? What is FortiGuard subscription? Yeah, it's a kind of a package. So what is overall like FortiASIC means? It's a application specific integrated circuit that is called FortiASIC, and that's a inbuilt feature in your CPU of the Fortinet devices. Okay, FortiGate is a modular based firewall. Okay, each module like firewall, antivirus, web filter, etc has a pre-allocated resources like CPU and RAM. That's why we call it as a modular based firewall. I don't have to allocate a CPU. Now let's say for example, if antivirus is highly utilizing the CPU, then your web filtering will not get affected. If firewall is getting highly utilized, your antivirus will not get affected. Why? Because it's a modular based firewall. What happens in a modular based firewall? Resources like CPU and RAM are pre-allocated. So anything if that is getting exhausted is not going to affect the other module. So these are the modules like firewall, antivirus, web filter, IPS. These all are the modules which are present on top of FortiOS, and they are modular based. Okay. The best part is if any one module gets exhausted or overloaded, does not affect the other modules. Okay. This is called FortiASIC. Now, FortiGuard subscriptions services are like we have the FortiGuard. See, we have provided by the FortiGuard distribution network. Okay. So in a different locations we have. Okay. Like you have FortiGuard updates, FortiGuard updates like FortiGuard antivirus and IPS update TCP at the TCP port number 443 with SSL encryption, live queries like FortiGuard web filtering and anti-spam. So these are the types of the subscriptions that you get under the FortiGuard subscription. It's a bundle, it's a package you have to purchase while purchasing the FortiGate firewall. Okay. Okay, guys. Today I'll end the class. More we'll see tomorrow. Try to get more queries, more answers, like more questions so that we can resolve it. Okay. Yeah. Guys, could you please text me your email IDs once again? Sorry for that, but please text me once again.